2, 1, 2. Oh, well, that sounds a lot better. Okay, that does need some gain there. So, that. Maybe that will be enough. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, it still sounds quiet, but hopefully that's good enough. Maybe I need to give it more. It's just this balance, isn't it, between enough and yeah. I don't have enough audio, Dave, G8CKQ. Hopefully it's a bit better now. Weird. Right, I better dekey. Oh, it's all gone weird now. What's happened? Bad. It's gone low level, isn't it? I need my audio to work. What's wrong with the system? Oh, I hate computers. What's going on? That's not doing it, is it? Ah, there we are. I think that's better. Right.
Good evening all from G8GKQ.
Good evening all.
Are you working? Okay, little bit of a false start there to start with. Sorry, I had a problem with the streaming software, but seem to be up and running now. Announcements for this week. Really good activity day on Sunday. Thanks to all who came out. It was good to see so much activity on 70 SEMS. The next is that better? Yeah. Possibly. Yeah. Back again. Next burst of activity will be the Christmas activity ladder. Yeah, sorry about the problem there. I'm not sure what went on there, but anyway, seemed to be back. So far I have G6MNJ, G0MJW, this will be the order, GI4DOH, M0DTS, G0DQH, G3IUZ. That's all I can see on my screen at the moment. If anybody else is there, please pipe up and I'll put you in the order. So let's go straight round to Paul. Now you've sorted your audio. G6MNJ and the net, G8GKQ.
Right then, hopefully it is working. Oh, it is. It's quite quiet though, isn't it? So I'll pick the microphone up and talk to it rather than leave it on the desk. Right, okay. I can do a bit of show and tell this week. I've had an incredibly busy week with building the various bits and pieces for GB3NQ's new digital transmitter, which is in front of me. So we've got one rather nice 7-inch screen, and I'll just whip the back off. I'll show you the back first, because you know that's something everybody should do, is put their IP addresses on their equipment. But we have tucked away in the back of that the Raspberry Pi 4, which is ready to go. 20 dB down on Dave, but clear. Okay, I presume that's my audio levels. I don't understand why they're so quiet. I really don't. I need to look at this. Got a new camera, but so I'm now a reasonable quality and not standard definition. But the audio, I don't really understand it. Maybe I need to shout down the microphone at you all. Hello, hello, hello. So anyway, that's loaded with the port stand 4, and has got the option that it comes straight on into transmit and stays there. We've already covered the issues of. Thank you, Dave. I will do this, and I'll pretend to be a racehorse presenter speaking into the microphone really, really close. And the weird thing is I've got 9 dB of extra gain on this, so there's something really adrift. Anyway, I'll worry about that during the week. So as I say, port stand 4, we've got the shutdown business sorted out, so when we lose power, we can connect an Arduino shutdown process to the pin on the port stand to shut down the transmitter, as well as the 3 Ryde receivers. Also arrived today and loaded up with the software. Is that ready to go? Now, all things being equal, I'm hoping on Saturday this weekend to finish up the wiring of NQ, and rather than reconnect the 19-inch rack standard definition NDS encoder modulator and the up converter that we install the port stand kit, and we go straight back on air at 1 mega symbols on 23 SEMS with 2/3 DVB-S 2 H.264, so that the natives will have somewhat better pictures to see in these coming weeks. Anyway, really not sure what's going on with my audio levels. I apologise. Hopefully it's good enough now. More interested to hear the comments of really of the video. The video quality should be a lot better. So that's it from me. I won't be coming back. I will watch around, but I've got stuff I need to do at 9 o'clock. So best 73 to all stations, and good to talk to you all. G6MNJ. Let's put up a test card.
Okay, well, that level's a bit high, but it does seem to drop down pretty quickly after I start. But yeah, good. Thanks, Paul. That was good. Good audio. It's just that it's quiet, so you need to boost it. I wonder, you haven't got a USB microphone, have you? Because Windows 10 really doesn't seem to work with some USB microphones. That's the problem I've got, and I've had to boost it by 20 dB. So maybe that's what you need to do. And it's still probably not quite right. Okay, well, a few things to show, really. So let's get on with it. First of all, the resurrected bench camera, the C920, is looking at my newly built mini ports down 4, which is the Pi with the new 5-inch screen, but with the new GPIO board on it. And if I can find the other camera, you can see it from a different angle. Not very different now, but it's plugged into a mini tuner, and it's receiving the signal off air on 2.4 gigahertz, despite it not actually being plugged in. And that's due to the signal strength from the dish. It's got a little rip in the back of it. It seems to be enough. I didn't look at what the MER was, but that 5-inch screen is very neat and portable, so really good. And of course I've got the new board, which Martin might talk about as well if he ever finishes his dinner. Right, let's go on to a few other things. So I managed to get the other Polycon camera working, as you can see there, but I've not really got it working exactly as I want it, so there's a bit more work to do on that, which I might be able to solve by just buying another Polycon unit, because the last one cost £11.20, so we'll probably be okay with that. But just a flavour of what I've been working on. I hope this doesn't upset Dave, because it's his design, not my design, I hasten to add. All errors are mine, all innovation is Dave's. So this is the proposed new noise head power driving unit, not head. I've got to think about what the noise head will be. And just been working on that in KiCad, as you can see. So get some prototypes of that made and see if it works. It should do, because it's a simple enough circuit using an eBay booster, this green thing here, and a transistor to switch it on and off, and these two here is a regulator and a current limit. So that's all that is, and let's see. Right, with that, I think it's round to Richard, GI4DOH. So let's pass it on to you. Put up the test card, GI4DOH, G0NJW.
G0MJW of the group GI4DOH. Just checking that I get the sound down. Getting used to doing this. You think I'd know by now. I made the mistake of trying to play around with things a few minutes ago, and I wasn't expecting to be on in the first two or three, so haven't quite settled into things, but do seem to be going okay. So yeah, that was fine, Paul. No trouble at all with your audio. Once you got close to the microphone, it was you were much clearer, but you were audible before that, and Mike, good to see that you're working away on things. It's always good to keep busy with radio things and ignore the rest of the things in life. So the thing I was messing about with that I'm not really used to is trying to do slideshows and the rest, and that's not really what I wanted to show. That's as a 7805, giving me 5 volts from. It's going to do things automatically. This is a pair of hex switches, and it's just not helping me at all. This is a box with those switches mounted on it. Great things, 3D printers for doing all that, and it's spoiled the story now. That is an attenuator board, and when I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that the Portstown 4 I was working on, I had one of those, and I was thinking of fitting it. Dave, GKQ, you mentioned that you used one with external switching on it, and I thought actually it's a much more practical thing to do, because I want to be able to change my levels on the fly, and at this moment in time I don't need to. I'm not going to mess with it, but that's now in line, and theoretically if I want to reduce or increase my signal, I can. The only issue is, because I didn't test the device thoroughly to start with, I think it's the sort of third binary digit in isn't working, and there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with any of the connections, and I don't know whether it was an AF board as delivered, or whether I broke it in that I had to cut tracks because I didn't want to pull up resistors and things like that. And yeah, it was working in the anti-static environment, but on the other hand, I'm still fairly new to these things, so I don't know, but I can work around that. I can do it like that digit, and only want to be within a dB or so. So that'll do me, and move on to other things. So that's enough from me for now, and I'll pass it on round to Rob. M0DTS with the group. This is GI4DOH, frantically hunting for a test.
It's working. It's working. That's amazing. I'll put an extra 5 dB on my audio just to keep everyone happy. Hopefully that's enough. Yeah, I've got mine set to 15 dB of boost in OBS for my USB mic. Seems to be pretty quiet if you don't run with that. It's just hitting the yellow there or thereabouts. Right, yeah, good evening everyone. Kind of been busy, but well, I suppose I have been quite productive, but it doesn't quite feel like it really. Oh, turn that down. Yeah, Paul, NQ sounds good. Look forward to receiving that on digital one day. I've managed to get it about P2 on analog a long time ago, like 4 or 5 years ago. There was quite a decent lift, and I managed to receive it and get in. So yeah, that would be good to receive that on digital. Hopefully it should be easier as well at 1 meg wide. So something to look for. Apologies, I never replied any more about your analyzer. It was ticking around in the brain, but nothing came out. So apologies for that. But yeah, I never came up with an idea as to what was actually causing that. It was rather strange. It will be a take it apart and measure various stages to find out where you get. But, yeah, your noise figure supply looks good, Mike. I'm interested in that as well because I built a little noise meter a long time ago, but I never quite got the drive right for the noise source. So that would be interesting. Yeah, and yeah, attenuators, Richard. Yeah, I know you're on about your dials there not working. That's a bit annoying. I got somebody in the post today off eBay, and it was some just your DC power supplies, multiple ones in a jiffy bag, you know, the typical grey jiffy bags, and not one of them was any good. It looked like a lorry had driven over the whole lot of them and just crushed the whole lot. So that was the end of that. So it was 5 of them. I've put not a claim, but I've put a request in on eBay to try and get some more of them. So that was a bit annoying. But yeah, it literally looked like a lorry had driven over them. It was just totally flat, the whole lot, in pieces. So there we go. I'm probably going over my time now, but basically I've just still been playing around with the VLF stuff. I've rebuilt my transmitter side of things. I'll show some pictures and a bit of explanation on that next time. And that's been pretty much it, really. Enjoyed the portable outing on Sunday on 77s. Unfortunately, I've not got round to even looking at the recordings I made, the IQ recordings of the signals. I need to get around to that. I'm looking for the GNU radio script that does the narrowband DVB-T, if anyone's got a link for that. I know somebody shared it on the Dropbox a little while back, but I seem to have lost it. So there we go. Right, I think that's enough for now. So that goes round to G0DQH from M0DTS on the BATC Net.
Check I've got audio. Okay, yes, good evening everyone. Just come up here and picture up. Here we go. Okay, here we are. Yeah, Mo and I checked with Alexa yesterday evening, and and she said that it was going to be a nice day over on the Isle of Wight today. So we got on the Red Jet and went over. It was very foggy actually going over, but had lunch in God's Hill and had a look around. But it turned out to be a nice day actually, very nice day, and calm as anything coming back. And we were back in no time, about 20 minutes I think, the trip from Cowes right back into Southampton. When I got up this morning, I noticed the radiators weren't on. We have an energy saving home anyway, and I really didn't take a lot of notice because it's always pretty warm in here anyway. But yeah, I came back in this afternoon after the trip, and the central heating has decided not to work. So I did have a look around, and it looks as if something's not quite right with the boiler. So
we're waiting for somebody to come and look at that tomorrow. So that's my woes for today. It never rains unless it pours, but there you go. So if you don't mind, I won't be on for a second round because I actually want to get to bed early as we were up early this morning. So, Roger, if you're watching, I'm awaiting your email. And I've got this ready for you to go. So 28 volt, 27 amp power supply. So I'll get that in the post as soon as I get your address, which I've probably got, but somewhere. But there you go. Okay, that's it from me. Second. Next is G3.
Well, good evening, everybody, and nice to see you again. Just checking the sound here. Right, that seems to be in business, and nice pictures from everybody this evening. And Paul, yes, your sound was definitely better towards the end with the close mic technique. Nothing technical to share with you tonight, but a couple of weeks ago I bored you with a series of pictures from my distant past when I was in my early 20s. I left the RAF where I'd been teaching the HF gear for the V-bombers and joined the BBC Engineering Service, television engineering in the Midlands. And I showed you something of the studio, life in the studios there. And I said I'd share a bit on the OBs of the time. So let's for the sake of old time's sake, let's have a look at that a moment. Right. This is where we left off. This is Wood Norton Hall, which was used as the seat of the Duke of Orleans when he sought refuge in this country following the French Revolution. It was taken over by the BBC as the clandestine centre of broadcasting during the war, and then became the BBC Engineering School, particularly for television, radio, and transmitters. So that's where we were last week. Let's move on, and here we are. OBs. I honestly cannot remember where this was, and if anybody recognised it, it's somewhere in the Midlands, and if anyone recognised it, I'd love to know, just for the record. But the situation, that is MCR 10, Mobile Control Room 10, or scanner. It was built originally, especially for the coronation. MCR 9, MCR 10 were both built, then they were de-rigged into Westminster Cathedral for the coronation. And then following that, they were obviously put back in their boxes, back in the vans. They're articulated van here, that's MCR 10 itself, with all the ancillary vehicles and the links here. And we're doing a broadcast here in the middle of, yes, this is a very muddy farmyard. I have no remembrance of why we were there, only of the mud. And that big pile is in a farmyard. You can guess what it was. And it got absolutely everywhere. And we felt very sorry for the riggers who had to clean all the cables afterwards. So all a little bit hairy, but there we are. That was OBs in the old days. So that was the link back to Sutton Coldfield, I guess, if we were working in the Midlands. But there we are. That's conditions varied greatly on OBs, but great fun most of the time. This is the cameras on MCR 10, the Marconi Mark II, The Mark 1s were direct cribs of the RCA TK14s, imported. Mark only built a few under license and then went to the Mark II. But this is with the turret off and a zoom lens on it. And this was on a very wet, cold winter's day in Dudley Zoo in Wolverhampton, Birmingham. This is on the Cup final day. That is Kenneth Wolstenholme. That's one of our cameras up in the stands of the doing the Cup final at Wembley. I think it was either 1958 or 59. I honestly can't remember. But interesting experience. They're there. They need more than one one OB unit. So the London ones were supplemented by the regions for big occasions like that. That's why we were down there. This was over on the Norfolk Broads with the new. We just got this rifle directional mic, so we're trying that out for the first time. Very interesting. We were doing all sorts of things, including we met Cockerell, the guy who invented the hovercraft, and we saw his prototype, which was really still on the secret list at that time. So that was interesting. This is doing racing from Birmingham on the Birmingham racecourse. This is a detached camera and control van here down at the other end of the racecourse from the main control room with a radio linked back. But of course, when you were remote like this, you had to generate all your own power and then synchronize it all. So you had to have sync generators and power supplies, and it got quite hairy when you had separated units out like this. That's just another view of it, another one. And that's me in the control van. That's the camera control unit. Our spare one back from base maintenance with the camera. Because normally the 3 cameras would be on the main unit, and then we would supplement it from spares. Lunchtime, nice little picnic, well away from senior engineers. Again, another one, a shot of me operating Coventry was. And Aintree, British Grand Prix, I think it's 58 or 59. Aintree. For those of you who didn't realize it, this is the Grand National course, horse racing course. And the motor racing course partly was inside and partly was on the outside where it went past the stands. And my pictures were taken from somewhere here, I think, if I remember rightly. That was the cameras up on top of the main stands, all very hairy, as you can see, made of scaffolding. And just a few of the cars that were taking part. Can't identify. I can identify a couple of them. That's a Maserati. I think that's just about its last run. It was at the end of its life, was being superseded. And that was Sterling Moss, who came second in that particular Grand Prix. And there we are, Sublime to the Gore Blimey. That was my first car, bought on my first, the first BBC salary, which was somewhat more than when I earned when I was in the in the RAF. Then in front of our old home, which my parents bought derelict in the 1930s, and it became our family home. That's where I was born. And on this 1932 Austin 7, I had a 14-foot whip. The top section of a World War II tank aerial with a loading coil, which one day fell off under a Birmingham bus in Broad Street, which was interesting. And then it was superseded a year or so later with a VW with another top band whip on the back, but this time more securely mounted on the back bumper. And in there, that was my homebrew top band rig. Receiver here, transmitter over there. I had one of the very early mobile licenses. There weren't many of them around in those days, but it was very useful on OBs and that. One could make contact with local amateurs if you were staying in digs. That was the transmitter. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you saw the picture last week. That was at RAF Yatesbury. So there you go. Right, well, that's enough of that. I hope that wasn't too boring. Let's see, back we go. So there we are. That's enough from me. And who does it go to now? It goes to Russ G4SAQ, I think. So if you just stick the test card up, then I'll know when to switch over. if I can remember to switch it across. Get used to this one day.
Well, very good evening, everyone. And thanks for those pictures, Roger. The outside broadcast stuff was absolutely fascinating. Goodness knows how you managed to lug all that stuff around. It's absolutely huge. Just fascinating the way things have shrunk in size. I don't have too much to talk about this week. First of all, touching on something Dave said, G8GKQ. Dave kindly sent me some pictures on 2 meters and 70 sems, which I was able to receive quite well. We were only about probably about 12 miles apart, I would think, as the crow flies, so no big shakes, but it was nice to be able to get some terrestrial broadcast pictures. I'm not able to transmit other than through the satellite, so that was interesting. What I've been up to this week is making a box for my outside gear for the main PA and its power supply unit. And my dish is mounted on the front wall of the house, but it's tucked away so it's out of view from the street. But I want to put a box on the wall just underneath the dish to accommodate everything. At the moment, it's I still put it out on a trestle each time I want to use it, and it's covered over tarpaulin just in case the rain or the dew gets on it. So when my box is finished and all painted up and waterproofed, everything will go inside it. But no pictures to show you yet. I had a problem last week with people's audio. It was sounding rather choppy. And I think it's better tonight. I had a bit of a problem with Roger's, but I think that's me rather than Roger's transmission, because no one else has commented on it. And one of the things I tried was I noticed in the sound settings that some of the devices were set for 48 kilohertz. And some were set for 44.1, so I've tried to set everything on 44.1. I don't know whether that will make any difference, but initially I thought it was helping. Something interesting, I think last week Dominic F1EJP sent me a message on the web chat to tell me that I was sending too many null frames. And he suggested I tried increasing the video rate. Well, I wasn't quite sure how to go about that because I'm using his free stream coder. But what I tried was changing the setting in OBS. I now have it set to 25 frames a second, and I found that seems to make quite a big improvement on the reduction in the number of null frames. So I shall try leaving it at that. And I think that's all I've actually got to say at the moment. So I think I'm at the end of the list. So I probably have to put it round to Dave, G8GKQ. So I'm going to try doing that. Let's make sure that I don't time myself out. So G8GKQ to take it. This is G4SAQ.
Yeah, okay, Russ, this is G4FKK. Yeah, I snuck in when you weren't looking, Russ. Let's get that on. And a very good evening to everybody. And good pictures and pretty good sound all right. I did miss well, most of you were over earlier, Paul, MNJ, because we were having an even later dinner than usual, so apologies for that. And Mike, your Polycom picture, I'm watching events today on a different monitor than usual, and let's just switch that to M&S. It's a smaller screen, but your picture quality is absolutely fabulous. And yeah, you did mention that I might talk about something, but I didn't hear what it was I was supposed to be talking about, so apologies for that. I've not done much electronics this week. I've been mainly laying bricks and then digging them up again, because I'm not a very good bricklayer, it turns out. I think I'm getting better. I've got a few bricks down today, and I'll see if they stay fixed on the substrate tomorrow, perhaps. What I did get during the week, if I go to Wobbly Cam, oh, I don't even need to do Wobbly Cam. No, I can do that. I got some beautiful purple boards from Uncle Mike. This is a second 10 meter, well, any old frequency converter, in fact. I've already built one, but this is the latest, possibly final layout. So we'll see how that goes. And Mike also sent me one of these GPIO breakout boards for the Ryde. Specifically, I wanted it for the hole in the middle for the fan. My Ryde currently, and this is the only bit of electronics I have done this week, my Ryde currently is not in a box. That's its temporary lash up that's been like that for months. And but yesterday I put the green LED on pin 7, so that when it's locked up, I get a very bright green LED. They're very bright these days, aren't they? There's only 5 milliamps going through that, and it's virtually blinding. And Mike also very kindly sent me one of his RS232 sniffer boards. Richard, I think you were saying something about attenuators, and the one you showed, I think it's the same as I've got in my signal generator here. And if I press, where are we? A10. I don't know if you can see that very clearly, but I can turn the attenuation up and down in half dB steps. And because with all of my programming of anything, as this is an Arduino, because it can be done, obviously it has to be done, so there's a little meter there following the the level of attenuation. So if you need some advice on that, or I can help, Richard, let me know. Roger, the BBC pictures were, as usual, fabulous. Really good pictures as well. I don't know if photography was one of your many skills, but they were good pictures. I've got some terrible pictures of OBs from my BBC Radio London days, which I probably won't ever bore anyone with, because it's radio, so there's no big cameras to look at. But yeah, they look like proper cameras to me. So I don't think I started at the BBC in 1980, so I think most of those devices had all gone. So, but it just for some reason is very evocative of the early days of the BBC, my early days anyway. And the Austin 7 with the 14-foot whip, brilliant. I thought I was a world record holder by running a 12-foot base-loaded whip on top band on an MGB years ago, but your 14-foot trumps that. And I think your VW is the same model as I used to have, so that was nice to see that gear stick. Russ, I'm glad you got some pictures from Dave. I had a singularly unimpressive 77s weekend. I didn't get pictures from anyone, and no one saw me. I can sometimes get a picture through to Gareth G4XAT, but I have to run about 60 watts. on 70 SEMS, whereas on 2 meters and 4 meters we can do the same path with half a watt ISO also. Yeah, but I bet the mix were massive, Martin. Well, we did have some 4038s in our news studios, which were quite big ribbon mics, Mark. Right, okay, I think that's enough from me. So it is round to Dave now, unless anyone else has snuck in when I wasn't watching. So round to you, Dave. G8GKQ, G4FKK, standing by.
G4FKK, G8GKQ. Great. Thanks, Martin. Yeah, shame you didn't get anything on 70 at the weekend. Strange, and very strange that you can't get stuff on 70 when you can manage on 23. Mike has just answered your question, Russ, on the chat. I don't use Minitune now except for testing video because of the audio problems with it. I only use Ryde or Portstown for receive. Set up in the shack at the moment is 2 Rydes, one over there that's doing the streaming, one up there that's I can play with and watch without any problems. And the other thing I run is, if I just turn this around a little bit, is a Portstown here, again like Mike does on 2409.75 to monitor the transmitted signal so that I can see if I've got any OBS problems straight away. Going back there, and the laptop's got the OBS on it. Roger, very impressive OB photos. Yeah, I'll have to dig out some more aircraft photos. Rob, I've sent you the details of the noise source. Be good to have a second pair of eyes on that. So check your email. Switching with those attenuators is pretty good, Richard. I'm just going to turn my power up slightly. Now that went without a problem. Oh no, it didn't. Yeah. When I move the switch, it tends to put a transient in the signal, and hence occasionally it moves. But sorry to hear one of your binary lines has gone dead. Paul, before you put the repeater up at site, I would check the reliability with the Pluto, and at the very least make sure you can remote reboot the Pluto. We haven't actually done any soak testing with the Pluto as a repeater solution. The Lime does seem to be more reliable. But I'm not saying it won't work, but please check it properly before you put it up to site and make sure you can reboot the Pluto. Right, what did I do at the weekend? Well, as Russ said, I went out and did some portable work. That was my portable setup. Slant polarized 5LE 2 meter beam and a horizontal 21 LE 70 SEM beam. And that's at lane end. I was looking on the map today, it's not as high as it could be. I should perhaps have gone to a higher site. But anyway, that was my setup. Looks a beautiful day, but the wind was pretty cold. Let's fade back to... Oh, I didn't mean to fade back to black. I meant to fade back to that. There we go. Since then, I've been playing with the new Raspberry Pi Bullseye software. It's looking a bit difficult as far as Portstown is concerned. There's quite a bit of work to do. But basically, some of the really good features of the Raspberry Pi, the fact that you can get directly at the camera encoder, they've taken out because they've got new solutions. That's great, but we've now got to rebuild the H.264 encoder in Portstown to work with the new solutions. So that's it from me, and Paul's got time for one more round, so let's put it round to Paul and then it goes round to Mike. G6MNJ in the group, G8GKQ.
Aha, audio. Right. Well, I'm not sure which microphone I'm using, but I do have audio. Right. Is it that one? Yeah, it might be that one. Oh. I love technology, don't you? Oh, well, I think it's this one, so we'll go with this one. Now then, first things first, I sorted out the camera. So, let's tell you what my headphones, because that is driving insane.
Yeah, the camera was left, right, inverted or whatever, so that's solved. The microphone lost its gain again. This is annoying. This is very, very annoying. I just increased it to 15 dB as you all suggested, and now I've done it again. So hopefully, yeah, I do think I've got two mics running. You're right. There we go. Right, I've just got the one now. That's probably better. Hopefully. Quick listen to myself. Right. Yeah, that sounds better, doesn't it? Right, okay. So, yes, I've got sorted out the vision. That's all now perfect. Wonderful. I take your comments about the reliability of the Pluto. I ran one for 24 hours yesterday just to see how reliable it was, and I had no problems here in the shack. So hopefully we're okay. And in terms of remote reboot, yes, we have. We can text message a remote switch from here that turns the repeater off, and then obviously text it again to turn it back on. Thankfully, it doesn't just kill the power to the Raspberry Pis. We've got an Arduino on a UPS, which then elegantly shuts down all the Pis, including the transmit Pi. And obviously in turn the Pluto will go down with it too. So we can do a remote shutdown and restart. I think we're going to be okay. I mean, my experience of using the Pluto here, and I've had it running a fair bit, is as long as you don't change things, which of course you do in the shack, it tends to be all right. If you just leave it alone doing its job, it's fine. It'll be left on permanent transmit as well, so even that status won't change. One of the problems I did have is as we move on and start switching HDMI, I needed some logic so that we have a priority of, as each vision source becomes active, we can ensure that the higher priority ones, if they're already active, stay feeding through to the transmitter, etc. And that resulted in that little diagram, which is a bit of fun. And then what is to, on these outputs on here, in on the front end of this, the which is the left hand side of the screen as you look at it, the resistor capacitor network slows down the progress of the logic through to the final one, which in turn gives you a 0, 1, 0 or a 1, 0, 1, which is a pulse which will then drive a relay, and the relay contacts are going across the a remote control, which in turn drives a 5-way HDMI switch. It's a bit Heath Robinson, I must admit. Anyway, that lot turned into that, which a PCB was designed this week and is being made as I speak. So that should be exciting when that comes through. Waterproof boxes. Now, hopefully, there must be an easy way. You'd think there would be, but that looked like that's going to work, and I like things that just work. Now, I don't have a microphone, I don't think, on this video, so bear with me. But I'll show Russ the probably see that. As you the dish outside box, outside box has got a in and out air with a fan sucking the it's all the 250 watt 30% power supply, obviously the cooling fan. I think it's flare from the overhead. Yeah, just yes, it is. Just lights. No. If who's got G0 put a card up.
Right then, good. I can see my own pictures coming back on both systems, so that's good. Hopefully there's audio, maybe at the right level. That's just a picture of the board on the back of the 5-inch screen with the Pi underneath it, the Pi 4 and the fan, which is too noisy. So the AliExpress fan that I've got is not as good as the Noctura one for silence, and I need to do something about that. And it's a bit, well, it vibrates a bit as well, so need to use a better fan, but it works, it does the job, and it cools it down. When it's inside a box, it'll probably be fine. Anyway, there we go. I was surprised Martin didn't comment on something orange, but there we go. Anyway, a few comments. It was really good to work a lot of people on 77s at the weekend. Been on 77s for a while, and because of Arthur donating an amplifier quite some time ago now, actually, but I've not got to use it. And then getting a driver amplifier off Gareth, well, that's working really well as well. Thank you, Gareth. That all drives up to 100 watts of DVB-S, and surprisingly also 100 watts of DVB-T. And not bad quality either, if you don't look too closely at the shoulders. So that was great, and I worked several people on both DVB-T and DVB-S. In fact, I worked CPE, DTS, GKQ, GTZ, EML. Some of those were one way, some of those were one frame, with Rob, certainly, and quite a challenge. It probably took us about an hour to get that signal. I received Rob relatively easily, but he had trouble receiving me, probably due to filing dowels. And yeah, it was great fun, so we should do that again sometime. It's a good idea to have a single band. I think we need to settle on one talkback system, and Zello seemed to be the way to go, I think. The only thing I saw which was worrying was Dave seemed to be in a wind tunnel, and I'm surprised he survived the event, really. Roger, those were great pictures of all the cameras that you used to use. Luckily I wasn't around at that time to have to carry those things, but I did think the carrying handle on top of that camera was perhaps a shade optimistic, but maybe it wasn't a carrying handle. Maybe you'll say or comment what that was, because they looked quite heavy to me. Yeah, I was going to say good pictures and no gremlins so far from everyone. Well, actually that didn't quite work out as it turned out, but mostly good. And Paul, your audio is okay once you had the microphone set up right, but you've got your video bandwidth a little bit too high. When you start moving around, you know, lots of screen movement, then you lose the voice, and I think that implies the video bandwidth is just a touch too high, whereas Roger's is a little touch too low, which is why he's had to increase his frame rate. But I would stick at 15 frames per second and up the video bandwidth, and I think you can do that in the program from Dominic, but I'm not sure how, because I haven't looked at it recently. Yeah, and Martin, nice VU meter there that you've got in the bottom corner of the screen that I spotted. I was wondering what the yellow wire was for, because it didn't seem to be doing anything. But I like your Arduino touchscreen. I'm not quite sure what the point of that extra meter was, apart from you could do it, but good. I can see lots of projects might be fired your direction in terms of GUIs for Arduinos. On the Pluto, I've transmitted to Dave, giving him an engineering test link, of course, for the entirety of the Cat 21 Mark II and also Cat 20. So it does seem to be able to work reliably long term, as long as you don't fiddle with it. Maybe that's the point. I think that's got to the end of my list, so I think it's round then to Richard. GI4DOH, over to you. G0MJW.
G0MJW with the group GI4DOH. Finding all the things that I need to click on, and yes, I'm there. I can hear myself. That's good. Yes, I'm envious of all this people getting out portable and working things and the rest. I am working on it. And I'll comment on something on that in a minute. Paul, nice to know that your lens wasn't scratched. It did look like a nasty thing on it there, but something that simple. And Roger, it's all fascinating stuff. Looking at that, I sort of playing that's before my time, but only just. And I once had one of the early Skodas, which is a bit like a porcupine with all the bands that I covered from it, including I think a helical whip for 20 meters, and with this sort of issue with sort of safety zones and all the rest. The pedestrians walking past when I was putting 100 watts into that doesn't bear thinking about. And Ross said, I think you said you were running off there, but a nice test car. Let's do something to change the rather mundane one I've got. And Martin, the issue of bright LEDs, there's a very useful thing that I got at a rally years ago. I wouldn't dream of soldering on a resistor for an LED without checking first, particularly if you're feeding different coloured LEDs from different voltages or indeed directly from a chip. I do like to test them and all the rest. Yeah, you find ones that take the traditional 20 milliamps just for you to know they're on, and others 2 milliamps, and they're sort of blinding you. They just you do need to check. And the attenuator control, yes, it's I wouldn't question your little meter on that at all. I think that's very nice. Whether it's necessary or not, it's got nothing to do with it. It all looks good, but this one's in the box with the cover screwed on, and I could put another unit in there to make up for the missing binary bit, but I think the missing binary bit is the one that controls the half dB thing, so it's okay the way it is, and that'll do. And I think I'm still not used to doing this. The other thing about on the Quest to get portable, where I need 28 volts and the rest, I got myself one of these little units, and I should really be able to flip me. It's I'm not used to doing this sort of thing. I'm going to transition back for a second and manually change. I'm going to play around with the settings now. This is not going well for me. This is what eBay reckons to be a 1200 watt up converter, and I don't know whether you could do 1200 watts with it or not, but it's all in this little box with power pole for 12 volts coming in, and slightly different coloured power pole for 28 volts going out. And I did actually test that during last week with the PA, the 2.4 gigahertz PA here, and I was getting 12 amps at 28 volts, at which point I was taking over 30 amps from the 12 volt power supply, and the wire was getting warm. So I wound it down. It's got a current limiter. I can't produce more than 10 amps, but in reality, I don't think I want more than 5 amps at 28 volts for my 23 centimeter stuff. So I'm getting down the road, getting ready for portable stuff, and I was hoping to go out for the microwave activity thing on Sunday. Unfortunately, family things have come up, and I can't do that. So that was to have been my first outing on 23 centimeters, albeit sideband, but get in there, and hopefully it won't be long before I do that. So enough from me, and pleased to see I did remember to change back from the slideshow. I'll pass it on on my list, Rob, M0DTS with the group. This is
Right. I was busy talking on 750 there, so apologies. I missed a little bit of your over there, Richard. Right, so where are we going? Where's images? Images. Right, is that the beginnings? There we go. So this is the insides of the. Oh, hang on. Wait there. Yeah, it's paused. That's fine. Yeah, so this is the very low frequency transmitter. So this is the 8 kilohertz transmitter that I've been playing with. Not technically an amateur band or anything like that, but you know, half of Europe's playing around with it, so I better join in. So it's based on the Behringer NX3000, which is like supposed to be like a 3 kilowatt in quotes audio amp, but it seems quite alright. I'm only using one channel of it. I know you can bridge it, but I haven't gone to that extent yet. When you're running this for like 6 or 8 hours or something like that, you don't really want a couple of kilowatts running for that long. But anyway, it runs at about 500 watts output on 8 kilohertz, quite alright at the moment. So I've made this extra case on the back with the signal source and a transformer for the output and power supplies and things. So that's a bit closer look on the insides. So the right hand side at the back is mains input. There's 2 relays at the back there. One of them switches the mains to the actual audio amp, so I can actually switch the amplifier on and off. The second relay is for the fans on the back. Next to there's a 12 volt power supply which runs all the time, and that powers, if you look to the right on the left hand side, there's a Raspberry Pi mounted on the side. So yeah, the 12 volt comes in, gets regulated to 5 volts, and then powers the Pi, which has got loads of wires hanging off the header there, and they go off to various different places. The little tin box to the right of that is Analog Devices AD9850 DDS, which is generating the 8 kilohertz using 10 megahertz GPS locked reference, which comes in the back. And I put in a little digipot in there so I can adjust the output level, because that DDS doesn't have output level adjustment, annoyingly. I might replace it at some point. So that's the signal source, the little tin box. That goes into the audio amp. That amplifies it and then drives into a couple of ohms output, which then goes into the big 8 toroid transformer, which takes the 2 ohms up to around about 40 or 50 ohms, which is what my earth antenna, which I've got just 2 earth spikes into the ground at about 60 meters apart. So yeah, that steps up the impedance basically to the earth, and that happens to be what the earth is up here. Pretty low compared to what most people are experimenting with. Just to the left of that transformer, there's a little board there which has got another transformer on it just to isolate the voltage detection. So I detect the voltage and rectify it to DC, and then there's also one of the wires passes through a little transformer there which is measuring the current on the output of the transformer, so I can measure the voltage on the antenna and the current, so I can get the power off that, and I can also get the impedance approximately. And then them 2 voltages that come off them detection circuits go into the chip that Dave's using for his power meter on the port down. Happened to get a couple of them, so the MCP 3002, is it? Yeah, and it's got 2 inputs, so that was handy. And then that feeds into the Raspberry Pi, just reads the values off that. So yeah, that's basically it. Just to the left of that, well, just to the top, above that little board, there's another 2 relays which switch the output of the transformer to the various antenna positions, because I've got 3 earth spikes, so there's 3 options I can switch to. like an east-west, a north-south, and then a one which is kind of diagonal, which is the slightly longer one. So that's the setup. That's the back while it was in progress. Could have really done with a board coming off the Pi to connect everything up to and things, but anyway, it works. So, and basically I've just got a web interface coded on the Pi so I can control it in the shack. I took a picture of the shack so you can actually see what the other side of the shack looks like at the moment. So that's the situation right now. That's the bit you don't normally see. The new 3D printer booth takes up a lot of space. I haven't actually used it this week. I've never got around to it. Been playing other stuff. That was one of the couple of frames of video that I got off mic when I was portable on Sunday on 77s. Yeah, the signals are up and down like a yo-yo with the Farlandales. That was off Arthur. That was the best I got off Arthur. It was only half a frame, so that was the best we did. And then Clive locally, that was easy. That was the portable setup in the gale force wind. That wasn't actually that windy at that point, but I took two 25 element Yagis to put up, but I just couldn't lift one Yagi and that collinear on the top. I could barely lift up into that position. It was that windy, so unfortunately just one antenna, because I had another stub mast which goes on top of that, which is about another 6-8 feet, something like that, so 2 Yagis would fit on. So that was the plan, but it didn't come off. They're a bit out of order, these. That's the back of the box when it's kind of finished. It's as good as I get anyway for labelling and things. Bit of marker pen. So yeah, that's the 3 antenna connections on in the middle. Oh, there we go. Back to 77s. That was the 3 paths work on 77, or 4. So everything was big DX really. Nothing local, only 1 signal local, so nothing in the middle. Bit disappointing, but there we are, and we're back to the beginning. So there we go. The other thing I was going to mention, sorry I've not been looking at the chat. Right, I don't think I've ever missed them. 4K 7 and that, yeah. A 1K resistor is just as common. So this is the C920. I did a little tweak to it today. I saw on, I can't remember where I saw it, but someone said to adjust the lens ever so slightly, so I did a quarter of a turn on the lens clockwise, and now it seems to autofocus quite well. So I'll try this on something, I don't know. Let me just go to OBS so I can see what's going on. So there's some close-in things. I'll go back out to there. Now it's making a liar out of us. It isn't focusing. There you go. So it focused on that. We'll go to something close in again. It seems to focus quite quickly, so anyway, it seems slightly better. Mine definitely didn't focus as quick as that before. So yeah, so that's C920. I was actually looking at it for, I'll go back to the other one. It's just not as good a picture quality as the HDMI camera. It's very grainy on the C920. Yeah, I was looking at the audio. I took it all apart to figure out whether I could put a separate audio sock mic in on the back to bypass everything, so you'd hopefully get good time sync with the audio and the video, or repeatable time sync, because using the USB dongle it seems to change all the time. It's the only thing that bugs me at the moment. It's bad enough on OBS when you're doing it with the Pluto and everything, but it's the same situation on Portsdown. I always seem to have a different audio sync using the external dongle. When I use the webcam it seems to always be good enough. but the audio is just not very good. So I thought, can I mod the C920? But it's not quite as straightforward as I thought, because it seems to use differential audio from each of the left and the right microphones. It's differential going down across and into the chip. And one other thing I did notice with the C920 is it only well, I don't know what sample rate it actually runs at internally, but the audio bandwidth is only 8 kilohertz. It seems to have 8 kilohertz low pass filter. I couldn't get anything more than that out of it, so that's one of the limitations I found on it as well. So I don't know whether anyone else has spotted that. Right, I think that's it really. Yeah, I think so. So 3200 sample rate, yeah, okay, so that should be 16 kilohertz, but it's only 8 what actually that's what it's actually passing through, so that may be why it doesn't sound quite as sharp audio as what we were expecting. Right, okay, round to G3IUZ M0DTS on a BATC Net. That was enough for me.
Okay, right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for the wide variety of discussions this evening, and kind remarks on on the pictures from way back. Most of them are from color slides. I at the time, yes, was very much into photography, and had acquired a new reflex 35mm camera, but had to be very sparing, of course, the cost of film and processing. But so all the pictures you've seen I've scanned in from 35mm color slides. So that's where those came from, and it's surprising how well they've lasted over nearly 65 years since I took them. Interesting how the difference in the quality of survival of the emulsions between Agfa and Kodak, which were the two principal ones I used at that time. And I've had to do a little bit of photoshopping on some of them where the colors had got rather badly distorted. Now, the handle, Mike. Right, let me just pop over to there. Right, now that, if I can just zoom in on it, if you look, the camera is split at this point here. So the viewfinder was a separate unit from the main camera body, which of course was again and the zoom lens was separate, and the frame was separate. So when you did a rig, you took all the bits up one at a time and put them together. And yes, they were very heavy. Not as heavy. This is the 3-inch image orthicon, the Mark II. The ones you saw last week from Gloucester Green Studio, those were the Mark III Marconis, and those were seriously heavy. Really, more than a two-man lift, even without the lens turret on. So, not good news. Now, if we just go back, if I can do this, to right inside the van. Every camera, of course, had to have a camera control unit where you did all the levels and so forth and so on. That was the job of the camera control guy. I'm doing it in that case. You got the monitor and you got a waveform monitor here, and you would sit it up and sit it down as per the senior engineer's instruction and so forth and so on, depending on the light levels. But down below was all the rest of the gear. Down here were your power supplies, your sync generators, and all sorts of other gubbins. So yeah, it was a serious amount of kit per camera. So if you had the scanner with 3, you had 3 of everything. So Yeah. I just thought you might be amused to, if I just go back to the camera, my camera again. Hang on a second. This was the Bible that we lived by. Let's get it the right way up. Television Engineering by Chief Engineer of the BBC, Amos and Birkinshaw, and there were 4 volumes at staff price of 15 shillings, 30 shillings to everybody else. And this is the sort of thing that we had to study. Now, I wonder if you can see that. That is the Emitron, and it is described as. Oh, hang on, I haven't switched across, have I? Sorry. There we go. Then let's try again. This is the Emitron. This is what we were brought up on, and image orthicons for the cutting edge. And this is a photoemissive high-velocity camera tube, just for those of you who don't know. And this was the 4 volumes, television engineering, full of fancy maths and so forth, optics. It was pretty comprehensive in those days. Anyway, there we are. That was the television Bible of the 1950s. Hope that's answered your questions. Look forward to meeting you all again, perhaps next week. And sorry, Mike. Yeah, I hope you got it all now. I'm still a bit of a duff hand with this. I'll get the hang of it eventually. Just put it down to old age. Thank you all very much. And who does it go to now? It goes to Russ, G4SAQ, I think. So good night, everybody.
Yeah, very good, Roger. G3IUZ, G4FKK. Have we actually got any audio this time? I have quite a long delay on my pictures. Blimey. Oh, no, it's still only 6 seconds, apparently. Seems longer when you're waiting. And, yeah, very good. And I wonder if was that 15 shillings per volume, or was it 15 shillings for all 4, I wonder, Roger? Because it's amazing how, even to me, even a young man like me, Roger, 15 shillings still seems quite expensive, and 75p, which is its decimal equivalence, feels like nothing, doesn't it? I did manage to find a picture that I was prepared to put out. That's a very young FKK at Radio London. I think I'd probably been there a year or 2 by then, but as you can see, I've not changed at all. I wish that was true. Dave, by the way, yeah, I can get through to Gareth on 4 meters and 2 meters. We've never tried 23 sems yet. 2 and 4 are easy, but 70 sems is virtually impossible unless I aim slightly left to scrape the signal round Gravel Hill, which is a big lump of gravel between Gareth and me. I like the picture of your 21 element beam. It looks enormous. I wonder if that's a specially long one, if you see what I mean. And yeah, this bullseye thing sounds a complete nightmare, Dave. I don't know why they keep changing. They seem to get rid of things that are really quite useful, don't they? Well, certainly for the ports down and rides and things. Paul's gone. I've found with the Pluto, it tends to, I call it overflowing. I don't quite know what it does, but if I do with the Pluto what I'm doing with this Lime, which is just leave everything running and just turn the PA on and off. On the Pluto, it eventually conks out, but so far, touch wood, the Lime seems pretty reliable. Mike, glad the 100 watt amp's working, and Yeah, perhaps we could do. Well, if we're going to do 70, I think you said once every 3 months, Dave. I think that was the suggestion for the 77. So I think it's a great idea. But perhaps we could try 2 meters maybe one day, or 4 even. I don't know if anyone's on 4 apart from me and Gareth. The only really local station I've got here is Alan G8TQK, who I can receive. You know, he can run a few milliwatts. He's really literally only up the road, but he hasn't had distaff permission to put a dish up yet. Otherwise, he'd probably be on the satellite. Mike, and Zello, yeah, Zello seemed to work really well. That meter, by the way, in the corner is not a VU meter. That is that's a ppm, and you'll see I'm peaking to 4. I'm using radio 3 levels today. In most local radio stations, they peak to 6 on peaks, and commercial radios, they just leave it on 8, so right on the end stop. Yeah, the Arduino, that screen is a Nextion, which is quite a nice. Yeah, we did a analysis once. Well, an analysis was done, Mike, about whose silences were most expensive, and Radio 3 came out on top because they have more silences, and certainly in those days got a larger chunk of the license fee than most of the rest of the BBC. Although TV is another matter. There we go. Yeah, that's a Nextion, that screen. You just talk to it and back from it serially, so it's quite useful and quite easy to program. Yeah, Richard, you're right about LEDs. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I've got another green LED here. Let's see if camera 2 will work on that. So that's the new one, and there's 5 milliamps going through that. And that's a very, very old one on my auto tuning unit. So the green one there, which is very much more dim, or less bright, is 15 or 20 milliamps going through that, I suspect. But that was built ages ago. What else we got? Yeah, those scanned pictures from your slides, Roger, are very good. I must try that. I've got a few old slides somewhere. So you must have a very good scanner. And I think the only book I've got here that was recommended, it wasn't provided by the BBC or discounted, was Terman, which was a radio theory book, and I think was published in the 1930s. And so I started at the BBC in 1980, so quite out of date, really. Right, I think that's probably it for me. So thank you, Dave, for running the net, and lovely to see everyone this evening. Yeah, that's it. Oh, here we are. Oh, yes, sorry, Rob, the 8 kilohertz. Yeah, Mike was asking whether you can hear that running. I think even I can probably still hear 8 kilohertz these days. And I was having a look at my C920, which is down there being a bench cam at the moment. I didn't know you could physically adjust the lens, so I might give that a tweak, because mine seems to take ages to focus on anything. Mike's, needless to say, doesn't dare go wrong, so his work's okay. Right, that's it. Back to you, Dave, and hopefully see you all next week. G8 GKQ and the BATC Net, G4FKK. Cheerio.
G4FKK and the BATC Net, G8 GKQ. Right. Oh, lots of interesting stuff. Rob, particularly impressed with the 8 kilohertz. I wonder if you get any problems with earthing of things around the place when you're running that much voltage through the ground. Whether any earth leakage trips go or anything like that. But really interesting to see. That's a really nice piece of construction. Martin, Gravel Hill, yes, know it well. The 21LE it's a normal length 70 It's just on a very short bowl. That's actually a Maplin speaker mount, so it's not very tall. But it fits in the car and it works. Yeah, 70 SEMs once every 3 months is what we're hoping for. There's no reason, of course, why you can't do 146 on that day, Martin. In fact, I did 146 with Russ, G4SAQ, so no reason why not. Thanks for the response about no issues with the earth leakage. Yeah, I'm surprised. Bullseye, yeah, the problem is software moves on. Linux isn't as bad as Windows, but it still has its moments, and really they're maturing the Raspberry Pi as a computer platform. It started off as very specialist, and we use some of the specialist modes. Some of the specialist stuff has now become mainstream, and they're using mainstream software for it instead of the specialist stuff. Which reduces the maintenance burden on the Raspberry Pi people, and puts it on the general developing community, but puts a big burden on us, so that is an issue. I think that's about all I've got to comment on. Yeah, those slides actually do have come out very well, Roger. Really good to see those. Anyway, I'll leave it at that for tonight. Thanks very much to all for coming on, and look forward to seeing you all next week. GKQ closing the BATC net and leaving the frequency clear. Good night all.